Talk about my platform, which is Ending Endless Wars, which shouldn't be controversial, but here we are. There's an entire generation that grew up without war. Whether people want to accept this or not, America does have a war nation background. We have the American Revolution, we have the Civil War, we have the Spanish American War, we have the War of 1812, and then we have World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, and it was the Vietnam War that I think finally gave us war fatigue. And that's not a bad thing. What happened with Vietnam was interesting because Vietnam put the war in our living room. Because of television, Vietnam got broadcast into every American's living room, and they had a chance to actually see what war really was. And although the men knew what war was, the rest of us didn't know what war was. And so the horrors of war became real. There's a different feeling that comes over you when you watch somebody have a gun put to their head and have their brains blown out than there is having somebody talk about the enemy with patriotic music playing in the background and cheering that you killed the enemy. It's just a different feeling. And people were rightly horrified to realize that this wasn't the enemy that was being killed. These were humans. And many of these humans were as terrified to be there as our people were to be there. And that brought a certain consciousness to society about war. And people started protesting it and saying, wait, why are we actually there? And in my opinion, that was the right kind of conversation to be having. And so it ushered in this time of peace in America. So an interesting thing happened during this time of peace. We had prosperity. And I remember when Ronald Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. That sent chills down my spine because that wall was something everybody talked about. And here's why. Because there were families on the other side of those walls, and it bothered everybody. It was something that I think the whole world related to. One side of their family was in West Germany, and the other side of their family was in East Germany, and they were separated by this wall. One side of the wall was freedom, and on the other side of the wall was communism. And the horror of being on the right side of that wall, watching your loved ones being on the wrong side of the wall, was something that haunted everybody. And so when Ronald Reagan told him to tear down that wall,
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What he was telling him was bring those families back together. I remember being in college and watching that wall come down. And one of my professors turned to me and said, you know who's running across, don't you? And I said, no. And he said, the families. And that's when it became real to me that the evil of war is not the economy. It's not the politics. It was the separation of families. It's what it does to the people we love. So when I talk about ending endless wars, that's what I talk about. One of the biggest mistakes that we make when we talk about war is we talk about the financial cost of war. And yes, war does have a huge financial cost, but there is a human cost to war that is immeasurable. And this is why I'm against war. Every life that is lost is a part of history that is lost. Your family, the people you love, are worth more than money. When I hear a politician or anyone try to equate the problem with war is that it's pushing up the price of gas, I cringe. Because if my family was in harm's way, I don't care about the cost of gas or the stock market. I want my loved one to be safe. When I talk about ending endless wars, I'm not talking about self-defense. America has to be able to defend itself. I totally agree with that. But wars of choice is not self-defense. And America has to stop getting involved in stuff we have no business in. There's this saying that keeps getting floated around, and it's attributed to Ronald Reagan, called Peace Through Strength. And I want people to actually think about what that saying means, because I don't think people really understand that. When people hear peace through strength, they use it to argue that the reason why the American military should be built up is so that nobody messes with us, that we show we're strong so that we can maintain peace. Because, America, we're the good guys. When we are starting wars, we're not the good guys. We're not. That's not peace through strength. That is aggression, period. Now you can say, no, we're doing that because stop. It's aggression. We are justifying that aggression, but it's still aggression. It's not peace through strength. What we are saying is we want a certain kind of peace and we will use our strength to achieve it. That's not American. At least that's not what America is supposed to be. America is not supposed to impose itself onto others. Peace through strength is a very dangerous philosophy. I don't agree with it. I agree with a strong military. I agree with a strong police force, but I agree in a justice system. And I agree that we hold everything accountable, which is why I don't agree with endless wars. Because when you believe with peace through strength, what you are actually signing on for is an endless war, because that is all peace through strength is. It's an endless war. It says that any time I'm ready to go to war with you, because in order to maintain peace, I must have strength. So I must always be ready to show my strength to keep the peace. I disagree with that. We can have peace without always flexing. We have one of the greatest economies in the world. We don't need to flex our strength to keep peace. We can do that through trade. Economy works. And by the way, in this era of worldwide economic trade, we should be flexing our economic muscles, not our military muscle. The only thing military muscle does is kill people, destroy the earth, and make everybody mad. I didn't say we have to stop protecting ourselves, but we have to stop aggressing on people. And as long as we're talking about aggressing on people, this civil war inside our country needs to stop. And I blame Republicans and Democrats for this, because both Democrats and Republicans have been profiting off of this civil war and escalating it for decades. And America, if you haven't caught on, I am going to enlighten you, because you keep blaming each other for the Civil War. It's not each other. The Democrats and the Republicans have literally made a fortune off of making you hate each other and making you think that the problem is the other side. It's not. It's them. They fundraise every time there's a crisis. Every time. Was it Rahm Emanuel who said, never let a good crisis go to waste? That was a great line, because that summed it up. Watch something terrible happen and then watch the rage bait and then watch the fundraising letters. It's unbelievable. And they literally have media outlets dedicated to make you hate the other side so that you vote for them and keep them in power so that they can make more money off of you. Oh my gosh. When I say end endless wars, that's another war I want to end. And there's only one way to end that war. You all got to stop voting for the Democrats and the Republicans. Just stop it. There are plenty of nonpartisan, non-Democrat, non-Republican candidates out there that you can elect to office in this next cycle that will stop this behavior. And you have to stop this behavior. You have to. For the sake of this country, you have got to stop this behavior. The only way you're going to stop this behavior is you've got to get the people that are promoting endless wars, foreign and domestic, out of office. Because if you don't, they're going to keep it going. They're going to keep it going. Nobody wins in a war. Killing people is what Democrats and Republicans do, and they do it well. Now, here's the one thing that a libertarian can say. We haven't killed anybody. And if I'm elected to Congress, I will promise you we will continue that record. America, we are so much better than this. This is our 250th anniversary. Look at what they've done to us. Stop blaming your neighbor. Your neighbor didn't do this to you. The Democrats did this to you. The Republicans did this to you. And they did it to you deliberately because they wanted to stay in power. You know how I know that? Because they spent millions, billions actually, to do this. There have been times where the Republicans have been in power and the Democrats have been in power, and they've controlled all three branches of government. And they have not used that power to make America better. They have used that power to push forward their agenda. That tells you all you need to know about them. Get them out. Get them out. If you want them back into the next election cycle, fine. But make them realize that they can be voted out. And I mean both of them get voted out. They both need to realize that you have options. And one of those options is we don't want to be at war anymore. Endless wars need to end. James Carville said back in the 90s, it's the economy's stupid. And I agreed with him. It was the economy's stupid when it came to that one particular moment in time with Bill Clinton. But both Republicans and Democrats have used that since as a barometer of how to run the country. We look at how the economy is doing. If the economy is doing good, the country's doing good. That's not what this country is about. That's not what this country was built on. It wasn't built on money. It was built on people. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. That was what this country was built on. It was not built on, we hold these truths to be self-evident that the economy shall remain stable. It's not about the economy, it's about the people in the economy. Humans, we're human. We keep talking about AI and the problem with AI and AI taking over our wars. You know why they want AI to take over our war? Because they don't care about people. Because it's the economy, stupid. People don't matter anymore. That's why we have to end endless wars. And we have to get rid of the people that think it's the economy, stupid. We have developed a brain in this country that has forgotten what this country was really built on. And it was built on people, humans, heart, the love of man, the love of country, the love of each other, the love of family, the freedom. No place was this country built on the thought that we would have two political parties telling us what to do. And at no place was this country built on the thought that we would rule others with peace through strength. We came to this country to escape tyranny, not to become the new tyrant. And being involved in endless wars, we have become that tyrant. We need to stop it. And we need to remember who we are deep down as Americans, in our DNA, who we are. We have to end endless wars in this country. The fighting has to stop. When it comes to our place on the international stage, we have to figure out how to flex our economic muscles and how to use that going forward so that we don't have to draw the gun or, God forbid, start an AI war. I can't even imagine what terror that would bring. And then here domestically, we have to learn how to start getting along with each other. One of the first ways is that I would stop listening to those political pundits. If you're listening to any media source that is making somebody the enemy, stop listening to them. They're the problem. They're literally the problem. You should not hate a whole group of people. You just should not. If you hate a whole group of people, somebody told you to hate that whole group of people because you don't know everybody in that group. So hating them is a very bizarre position to take. I don't care who you are. Like, I get it. Like, you may dislike somebody who treated you poorly, but how do you hate an entire culture? See, that's what war is. War is, at some point, somebody convinced you to hate an entire culture so that you saw them as less than human. We need to stop that culture. And one of the ways we stop that culture is when we stop promoting that. As your congressperson, I won't promote that. And when I say I won't promote that, here's what I mean. I'm not going to promote America as an aggressor, and I'm certainly not going to promote America as the victim. What I will promote is America as having options. And when America does something wrong, I'm not going to excuse America. I'm not going to vilify America either. There's a difference between accepting the fact that you have made a bad mistake and saying that you're a bad person. And I think one of the things that politicians get wrong is that they don't understand the difference between America making a bad mistake and America being a bad country. America is making a lot of very bad mistakes. Doesn't make us a bad country, but we are making a lot of very bad mistakes. The country is still great. The reason why the country is still great because the people in the country are still great. Many of the politicians suck, but the politicians aren't the country. They can be voted out. Vote them out, and let's stop endless wars.